Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Enter the Labyrinth podcast. My name is Bannibal Harka, and I am here with my teammates RMB and Wonderland. And we figured we'd give this a go. For the first time around here, I think we're just going to do some really brief intros about who we are, where we come from, and our experience in TCGs. And I'll throw it over to RMB first to talk about his experience.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy RMB. Nah, I'm just messing with you guys. Most of you guys in the community probably already know me because you guys have probably seen some of the deck lists that I post in Dreamborn. But if you guys have never met me, either in person events or streaming on Twitch, I'm RMB. I like building spicy brews. I've been playing TCGs now for a little over 20 years. Started as a child, collecting Pokemon cards. Kind of got into Yu-Gi-Oh! When Yu-Gi-Oh! First came out because I think every child at that time loved watching Yu-Gi-Oh! The TV show. So when the card game came out, it was oh yeah, I have to play this. And then I found out about Magic the Gathering in about 2001. And from 2001 up until Lorcana came out, I've played in every level of Magic events imaginable, from locals all the way up to pro tours to invitationals, $75,000, $100,000 invitational tournaments. Never quite made it to the pro tour, but that's the goal with Disney Lorcana, is to try and make it to Worlds, since it's the one thing that I was unable to accomplish in Magic. I'm gonna pass it over to my brother Wonderland.
Invitational's pretty impressive, RMB.
Yeah, right. I mean, you have to win an invitational qualifier, so it's just the same as winning a PPTQ.
Oh, fair. I mean, I have made it to some PTs, but just don't look at my records at those PTs. Let's just be like, he's played in Pro Tours.
Yeah, I didn't say my record.
Pro Tours.
How bad could it be? How bad could it be?
Oh, no.
The worst it can be. The worst it can be.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I'll be honest, the first Pro Tour that I ever played in for Magic, I traveled to Spain for it nonetheless, so I paid an arm and a leg just to get to the Pro Tour. And I started off before draft, I was 1-2. I was oh, it's not too bad, I picked up a win, got into my first draft pod, 0-3'd that draft pod, went back to constructed, won 2 games, and then lost the next 5 consecutively. I was yep, I am not as good as I thought I was.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to brag about the worst I've done. I mean, I could try to one-up you, but I feel like winning this one-up competition is not actually a good brag here. So, I've also played Magic forever. What was that?
I was going to say I can beat you both. I've lost 5 win-ins for the Pro Tour and never made it, so I'm just the loser.
No, you won out of all of us. You saved all of the money that you didn't have to pay to try to go to the Pro Tour.
I am undefeated on the Magic Pro Tour. That is a fact.
There you go.
I have a losing record on the Pro Tour. But a fun fact, I made it to day 2 of a Pro Tour before I made it to day 2 of a GP. That was entertaining. And my first PT, day 1 was canceled because it flooded. And there's 3 feet. It was in 07 in Valencia, I think.
Jeez.
I'm a Magic boomer, I guess, card game wise. But I've also played, just like RMB, played this game forever since I was a kid. I assume that's similar for you, but I'll let you talk about it. Bannable.
Yeah, so I have been playing TCGs forever as well. In fact, I've played almost every major TCG that's ever been released to some extent. But really, I only played Magic competitively. My dad taught me to play Magic when I was 7 years old. He used to play with some coworkers. So I've been playing for a really long time. Picked it up competitively in high school. And I was never really a grinder, but, whenever the PTQs would be in town, or at least within driving distance, I'd go and give it a shot. Got very close a number of times, but did never make the Pro Tour, as I mentioned earlier. That's okay. And quit a few years ago. For the most part, I would just play on Arena, but then I got kind of hyped for the Disney Lorcana when I heard about it. So then obviously, picked that up when it came out, and I started making YouTube videos shortly thereafter, and here we are, I guess. So yeah, that's where we come from. Um, well, I guess we
It's
want
funny
to.
because your videos were one of the first like videos that I started watching on like Lorcana content, and like unsurprisingly, like Wonder was one of the first streamers that I started watching as well. So like, it's kind of surreal, like sitting here calling you guys teammates, and like even like some of our other teammates, like Lorcana Bro, for instance. Like I knew the name Aaron Rubin from Magic, and like I was like, he's a solid player, and like I didn't realize that Lorcana Bro was Aaron Rubin until PPG Houston, when they like said his name in the like the feature match, and they were like, and Aaron Rubin, and you may know him by Lorcana Bro. I was like, no, there's no like I had already done like a gauntlet with this guy, like Blue Steel versus Red Purple, just not even knowing that like he was just like a Magic Pro. Just had no idea.
Yeah, I think we've got a lot of high level players in Lorcana community from a bunch of various games, which is super cool to have so many recognizable faces. You know, if you've been a competitive player of various TCGs over the years, I don't know. I think it's exciting to be able to play against top players, especially in a new game that we're all kind of learning together.
Yeah, I think everyone's just trying to find that perfect card game, and like every game has its positives and negatives, and it's just like try to find that one that like gets the itch. And Lorcana's doing a pretty good job of that right now.
For sure.
Yeah,
Songs are a little busted, but
I think Lorcana's biggest drawback right now is just the available card pool, which is to be expected with any new game. I think like as time goes on and we do get more cards, and you know the format does tend to kind of even out. I think that over the first two sets for sure there was some pretty disparaging numbers on of the amount of decks that you could theoretically play in a highly competitive setting. I think that a lot of that is being corrected now with set three, as we're starting to see that there are a lot more decks that are viable, which it's moving in a positive direction. But man, there's some cards I can't believe exist. Like I can't believe
Old
they made
world.
I can't believe they made Wheel of Fortune free. Like,
Yeah,
like
seriously.
I'm pretty sure all of us played Magic when we watched Wheel of Fortune get banned. Like for
I
very
mean,
good reason too.
there's a reason why like the first deck that I did well with was like steel based. It was Amber Steel. Like I saw a whole new world and I was like, this card is busted. Just straight busted. There's going to be a way to break it. I'm going to figure out that way how to break it, and I'm going to be number one on the leaderboard. And then Ducky said, no, you're going to try, but I'm not going to let you get first.
All right.
Ducky was a
Well,
monster season one.
we all had a chance to play in the big TBC tournament over the weekend, which I believe is the largest ever Lorcana tournament to date. Is that correct?
So far, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I figure we can go through our tournament experiences. I think we all played different decks. I can't remember what Wonderland played, but I know what R&B played.
Yeah, because you you hated me for it. You're like, why are
I
you playing that bad deck?
I
I was like,
did.
because I don't know what to play, man.
I did make fun of you. Obviously, we can say it. R&B played Green Steel, and I made fun of him a little bit for it. But I think that was the right
A
choice. I
little
mean,
bit.
it's
It was like 5 hours when we were testing the night before.
it was maybe a little bit excessive, but
No,
three
it was
Green Steel
amazing.
decks did top 8, so I think that's or top 16 at least. So that's basically the best tournament, uh, I guess,
Red Purple had like
performance.
6.
Yeah,
There were 6 Ruby Amethysts in top 16 too, which I mean, like that's to be expected. Like Ruby Amethyst is not dead. For those that keep saying that the deck is dead, it's not dead. It's still just a great deck. But like I think people have like,
Far.
especially in set 2, some people just played too much of it, and like they
mhm.
want to venture out and play other things, which like I completely understand. But like the deck is still good. It doesn't have a necessarily bad matchup. At its worst, it's got 50-50 matchups across the board. So like it's going to show up in numbers.
It's farmable. It had like humorously like the red purple aggro, and then to an extent some of these green purple aggro lists, they were geared like red purple is the par. Like it is the meta. It's gonna be a good choice.
Right.
But as you're saying, it's 50-50 against everything except for the decks that are designed only to beat that deck. And they are going after it as hard as they can, but like they're giving up games against
Loots.
Amber Steel or like Red Blue, as you know, someone here played to try to punish those people for doing such a thing.
Yeah, I did play the Ruby Sapphire deck. I was hoping to run into Blue Steel and maybe some like Lantern Steel Song decks. Instead, I just played against Emerald Amethyst all day, which was kind of unfortunate. But we did somehow manage to pull out a top 16 in spite of that, which is pretty cool. Yes, yeah. Well, I had to get top 8 to get paid. I think generally the TABeasty events only pay out to top 8. So luckily, I did win my first round of top 16 before scrubbing out horribly.
I think
I
they
mean,
did
it's
something,
still
but I don't know for sure.
no, they only paid out the top 8, but like it's still an impressive feat. And the reason why I think it's an impressive feat, and like I commend you for even making top 16 in the first place, is because this is the first event that was run on the new best of two system or two game set system, whichever it is that you want to call it. Which, as someone who's come from traditionally playing best of three, uh, it is significantly harder to like guarantee a top in this weird, awkward two-game set where over 70% of the matches in any given round are ending in a 1-1 result. The It doesn't sound like it's that hard, but do you know how hard it is to consistently 2-0 multiple rounds in a row? Like the odds are so stacked against you considering one of
Get
those
good,
games you're gonna be on the draw.
get good RMB. Just
Yeah,
don't lose.
skill
I mean
issue.
that's why I didn't make it. I lost in the last round. I lost. If you don't lose, you get in there. I mean that when it comes down to it, does it give you a feeling that you're missing out because you're not getting your game three? Sure, sure. But is that the format's fault, or is that us all being boomers and playing like a best of three format in every other game we've played? And like I kind of get that feeling, and it's just like, man, I lost. I O2'd once in that event, and I did not make top 8. And the rest, I got a couple 2-0s and then some 1-1s. I think I finished 4-1-4, or yeah, maybe. But I did not get. I was like 23rd place, and it's just like, man, not making day 2 with one loss feels terrible. But I could have won more, and
So
that would have pushed it.
before we go too deep into the discussion about the two game set format, I figure maybe we can explain what it is, since I think a lot of people have heard about it, but most people probably have not played a tournament under the system. But basically, instead of playing a best of three match every round, you get paired against an opponent and you play one game going first and one game going second. And if you win zero of those two games, you get 0 points. If you win one game, you get 1 point. And if you win two games, you get 3 points, which makes going 2-0 extremely important. Yeah, I mean, I think there are some pros and cons. Obviously, I like that I get to play exactly 50% of my games going first and 50% of my games going second. I don't have to worry about a die roll so much. I mean, there's still a die roll, but it's not that important. Um, I
There are
kind of hate,
positives of the format.
for sure. I kind of hate the extra point. I don't see any reason why there should be an extra point awarded to someone going 2-0. I don't understand why going 2-0 and then 0-2 should be better than going 1-1 and then 1-1. It doesn't really make that much sense to me, but I don't know.
I'm probably on the other side of the fence. I know you guys are like both really open to change and new things, and I went into this event this past weekend with an open mind, and I didn't say anything about the format until round 7 because I wanted to get enough rounds in to make a reasonable assumption of my feelings towards the format. And I won't use the word hate because hate is an incredibly strong word, but I very much dislike this format. And the main reason why I dislike this format is because I left the majority of my rounds feeling unresolved. I felt like I should have won certain matches that I was favored for. Um, I felt really unsatisfied. Like I felt like I left something on the table. Like we were two, you know, that just ran headforce into each other, bounced our skulls off of each other, sat there, looked at each other for a second, turned around and walked away. There was no resolution to determine an actual winner, and for that for me was incredibly unsatisfying. Like whether I lose or win, I want there to be some level of resolution to the game. I want there to be a definitive winner. And because over 70% of the games are going to end in a 1-1, the overwhelming feeling is that the games are left undecided.
Yeah, and they went for this. They said that it was like based on esports, right? Because like games like Overwatch and such, like you play a round, one team wins, and then you play another round, and the other team wins. But like the difference there is like they have times, and then so it's like, oh, you beat round one with 30 seconds left, you beat round one with a minute left. Well, you win because you had more time left, so you did it faster. And we don't really have that, and we don't want it either necessarily, right? Because then it would be like play aggro, because like whoever gets the highest lore total over 2 games or something like that, that's not what we want. But it does help for a casual crowd, though, I feel, in some manner. But
Right. You said it right there. It helps for a casual crowd. So let's talk about Ravensburger's decision to place this format at the highest level of competitive gameplay the game has to offer. Now, I 100% agree with you. I do think it does cater to a casual format. I actually think that the format would be great for League. Like local League, you show up F&M and you could get done in 2 hours versus sitting there for like 4 hours playing best of threes. Like, I think it's perfect for a local community, but for the highest level of gameplay, I want to walk into a match against Bannable Harka and be like, damn, I lost 1-2 to him. Like, and I would accept that. But if I go 1-1 versus him, like, I'm left wanting more. Like, I want to know, like, who's better. Like
the same reason
he is better, but yeah, he's better.
like the same reason you
He
want
has
best of
hair.
5 in top 8s, right? Like you want there to be a
No,
lot
not
of
necessarily.
games. It's entertaining, like.
I don't
But
necessarily want best of 5 though. Like best of 5 is a lot.
It's a slog.
Best of 5.
Sure.
But that's the other thing too. Like going through the entirety of the event, I feel like I played significantly less Lorcana, which I also don't
Yes.
like. I'm playing this game because I love this game. Like I feel like I played significantly less Lorcana, and like that also was a negative feeling.
Yeah, I got 4 1-1 splits, so that means 4 matches where I played 1 less game. It did, like, I could tell every round for me ended, except for in one occasion, within like 20-30 minutes. So it did feel like I played less, which is a little disappointing. I think that might be part of their plan, though. I think there's maybe some concern that Lorcana is a slightly slower game than a lot of other TCGs. Like, games just go a little longer, and I think that there's some concern about maybe events going to time every round.
Step 1, red purple.
Yeah. So I think the format was their attempt at dealing with the time issue as well as the play draw issue, which I think, it at least shows that Ravensburger's receptive to the idea that maybe there's a play draw issue in the game, which I don't know if we want to talk about that, but
what if I told you that there isn't a play draw issue in the game?
Controversial.
So like, and this is, it's like I've been calculating my own statistics of the games that I played. I genuinely do not think that there is play draw disparity in the game. The reason I think the largest disparity is a skill disparity. Over the last 60 games that I have played of Disney Lorcana, whether it be digital or in paper, my win percentage on the draw is 71%. Over the same 60 games, my win percentage on the play is 66%.
Look at this guy.
So I win more games on the draw than I do on the play. I think that this game...
Is that a deck choice, you think? Because my stats do not bear that out. I have a pretty clear disparity between play and draw in mine, but...
This is over 4 different decks.
It also just shows, like, some matchups are just, like, that heavy-hitting based on what decks you're playing. Like, some decks do have a better chance. Like, Green Steel, I think, has a pretty good on-the-draw matchup, like, depending on the version. Like, you're trying to get cards out of their hand, right? So if they have one
Right.
less card, that could be an assistance. They could be bursting their cards out really quickly before they know what's what, and you could get them in that regards for a while there, and possibly still. Like, I felt like the Lorcana Bro mid-range version that we all played a few weeks ago, like, I wanted to be on the draw in the mirror, and it was weird, but like, it let me react to their Ursulas, and if I mulliganed properly, I could do that, and it just lined up well. It was weird how it worked, but it didn't feel right from like a Magic player's perspective or any Tempo player's perspective, but it was there at least, and it gives good hopes. And I'm pretty sure DeCandio was also saying just like, get good. It's like a skill diff.
Yeah,
I think it really is. I think it is in fact a skill difference. Like, that's the biggest disparity in the game. Like, I think we put too much stock in Pixelborn statistics. Like, if you're pulling statistics of the top 50 people in Pixelborn, I think we can all agree that the top 50 people in Pixelborn are the ones that are consistently winning these events and consistently topping these events. If you give any of them any sort of advantage, like, they're going to take advantage of that advantage. Like, if I take Brennan DeCandio and Michael Ferranti and put them through 50 games together, you'll probably see like a normalization of 50-50 of them being on the play versus on the draw.
I mean, you get a better look at what the like disparity would be if both people are like great players, and it's a matchup that is close and grindy. But like, the play draw also kind of determines who's the aggressor sometimes and who's like the reactive player. And if your deck doesn't have proper reactive cards, like, you're not going to win that, right? Or if like I mean, or bannable, like, I assume you want to be on the play against the aggro decks, right? So you can actually get your ramp going and do stuff. It's probably really impactful there.
yeah. I think when I played Ruby Sapphire, certainly it's weird because in the mirror, the play draw is not that important. It's like certain card combinations are much more important in the mirror because both of you are going to get to a bunch of ink and neither person is putting a ton of pressure on early. But yeah, against something like a Steel Song deck or an Emerald Amethyst Tempo deck, or even honestly Ruby Sapphire decks, like, you really want to be on the play to make sure that you can get to your late game stuff before they're at like 12 lore and you're just permanently on the back foot. Because once you can turn the corner, as long like the Ruby Sapphire deck can turn the corner really quickly with something like Tamatoa, but you need like 1 or 2 turns of breathing room to start turning that thing sideways. Like, if you have to challenge your opponent's characters with Tamatoa, it's just not the spot you want to be in.
No.
I personally think that the play draw is still a problem. I definitely have a pretty crazy disparity between my win rates. I mean, by crazy, I mean it's probably like 10 to 15% different going first, but I win about 85% of my games when I go first, which is kind of absurd. So I don't know.
It's pretty absurd.
It is, but like, and I win, certainly more than half my games on the draw, probably closer to 60, low 60s percentage, but it's, I can still win. That is not a problem in and of itself, but the fact that the difference is so big and that I feel it in a lot of matchups. I haven't played a lot of Green Steel, and when I have, I've done poorly with it, but we don't need to talk about that. So I haven't really played a deck that feels like okay on the draw. But I know a lot of mirrors. Like, I've played a lot of Steel Song, and man, you can win going second, but it is not a fun experience, especially if they like lead on turn 1 Cinderella, and you're just like, okay, well, hope you don't have Storm Rage on, or I'm kind of toasted.
I mean, there are cards that have catch-up mechanics built into them. So like, a lot of the time, what I've seen is like, I play steel decks. Like, it's no shocker, right? R&B plays steel decks.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I play steel decks, and like, I've really been liking Robin Hood a lot lately. Just the ability to go like Robin Hood on 1, shift Robin Hood on 3, sing grab your swords, or like sing let the storm rage on, or sing, and then along came Zeus. Like, those are the types of catch-up plays that net you positive when on the play, because your opponent played something, you're getting an opportunity to react to it and leaving something in play. Like, I think songs are busted. Like, songs are broken.
Agreed.
But like, that's not an answer to the Cindy though. Like if they play a turn 1 Cinderella and you have a turn 2 Robin Hood, then you're just like, please, please, please don't storm it or play a character and rage it. And
I don't play into it. I just choose not to play into
You're just
it.
gonna not play your 1-drop and steal song? I mean, it's an option.
Well,
So no, hear me out here.
That. I
hear
agree
me
with
out.
what he's saying, but
instead of playing the turn 1-1-drop, I will forego playing the turn 1-1-drop, and turn 2 I will play 2 1-drops and say simply, you cannot answer both of them. You cannot answer both of them.
Yeah, which shift do I have?
Play
that
knows?
game.
Let's play a game.
Yeah, I suppose that's an option, but it's still like, obviously you don't want to necessarily be in that position. It's nice to have the Cindy in play, ready to shoot down whatever they play on your second turn. It's like a huge tempo swing. You get to replace your card. Yeah, I mean, I agree though. I think that there is a huge skill disparity, even in like competitive tournaments, between the best players at a tournament and, you know, the worst players at the tournament, who at like a serious competitive tournament are usually not bad, but it's not like this game has been out for 10 years and everyone's pretty good. Like in Magic, you know, I feel at a major tournament, the worst players in the room are actually often much closer to the top, although there's definitely some skill disparity there as well. In Lorcana, there's just a huge disparity where so many people are relatively new to the game, because of course they are. The game's been out 9 months or whatever. And those of us who've been playing for all 9 months of the game are maybe a little bit better than the people who've been playing since set 3 or whatever. I know I played against one person in the TheaBeasty tournament who said they'd only been playing for a couple weeks. Like, obviously, you know, I have an advantage there. So I do agree that people can leverage a skill advantage, and that definitely exists. But
you're playing people fresh into the game. I'm over here fighting through. No, I'm not. Come on, man. This is not fair. If
you want to compare the people we actually ended up playing the tournament R&B, we could do that after the podcast.
Nah, I started off 0-2. Okay, my first round, I got bodied by Blue Steel. Went into the losers bracket and then started doing really well in the losers bracket. But like, you're right. Like, you probably played better players than I did for the majority of the tournament.
How many people in the Swiss did you play that also made top 16?
Me? Bannable or me?
Both.
I don't think any of them did.
I think I had 3, but I mean, of course, like, I think all my last 3 round opponents did. I was toward the top of the leaderboard, so I was getting paired against people who were mostly locked for top 8 at that point, or top 16. So
I was just scratching at the bubble the whole time. I just needed that one win.
Yeah, I think I probably had 4 or 5 opponents in the top 50. I mean, I had good tiebreaks, so obviously, like, the people I played against did well. But
that was the one thing that, like, so I know I've talked negatively. Like 35%, 36.
Well, the tiebreaks weren't right.
No, they weren't. They weren't correct. The software was not set up for it. But like, I know I said like a lot of negative things about the 2 game set format, and so this is something that like I want to address, that you can look at it with both hats. You can look at it as both a positive and a negative. Even with losing the first round 0-2. I played all 9 rounds the entire day. At no point did I feel like I didn't have a shot until like round 8, when I ended up like having to split a draw. Like, even going into round 6, I still had a shot at top 16. I needed to, like, round 7, 8, and 9 go 2-0, all 3 of those, and I would have been locked for top 16. So like, a positive sense that your 0-2s are significantly more forgiving in the 2 game set format. But like, part of me also just like wants to go 0-2 drop and like do side events, or like go do literally anything else. Like, I never once during the entire event felt like, okay, like, I'm clearly not going to make it. Like, I'm safe to just drop and like do literally anything else with my day. So like, it forced me to play every single round because of it,
knowing that you were likely out, but not technically mathematically out.
Correct. Like, I was not mathematically out. Like, obviously, like, it was an uphill battle that I was going to have to trudge through, but like, it was possible, it was doable. And the sad thing is the last 3 rounds I got 2-0s in 2 of them, and the other one I went 1-1. And had I gotten like the 2-0 in that one, like there was a real possibility like I could have made it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I feel it's like a reward when I get to drop at 0-2 and then just be like, oh, I still have a Saturday. Like it, because I'm not already 0-2. I'm not feeling good. Like obviously, I don't want to just like tilt out on another game. Like I watched my replays from the event and like I made a mistake, lost a game because of it, and then my last round I made like 2 or 3 more mistakes and I just assumed I was tilted off from losing the round before and then having to play another one and then being disappointed because I knew who it was, what they were playing, and how like I'd already not a good record against that person on that deck with the deck. And I played Amber Steel, in case you didn't notice, Spannable. I think I said it earlier, but
That's what I assumed you played, but
remember.
I couldn't remember, and I was thinking, oh, maybe he tried the Ruby Amethyst aggro deck again, but
you say that with such a sly smile. Do
No,
you not like that selection of,
I actually
of
think
the deck?
I actually think that aggro is underrated right now. But
There's a lot of steel.
yeah, I didn't run into it in the tournament, but I faced a phantom metagame that doesn't exist in the real world. I entered a bizarre, different universe.
Talk about your Zan matchup.
Well, yeah, in round 3, I got paired against Zan Saeed, who is I believe, the Atlanta 8K winner. He was on some crazy Pride Lands Steel Song combo deck. I didn't really, it didn't go off against me, so I didn't really get to see exactly what was going on, but that was definitely interesting.
You would think that your matchup would be the one that he's comboing to beat, right?
Well, it's weird in that I honestly felt like it was just
his draws are just
the deck doesn't put pressure on as well as the other Steel Song decks do rather, and like Flute Song can pressure you and has a bunch of reach, and then the Lantern Song decks can keep up on ink and do a bunch of really, really powerful things. But when you're spending your first turns trying to set up a Pride Lands, you actually give me a lot of time to ramp to 5, to ramp to 6, and then Maui just comes down and eats your Pride Lands. And if you try to protect your Rockstar Stitch, I'm just going to eat it with a Madame Medusa for free. So I felt like the matchup favored me. I don't know, it's one of those big question marks because I've not played against the deck very often. Certainly I've played against some Pride Lands combo decks, both Amber Steel and Amber Amethyst, but it feels like it needs some work maybe. And I mad respect for
Maui.
playing a deck like that. Yeah, I mean, Maui's just huge. Like killing locations, especially when you're trying to set up a location and have it be a core component of your strategy it's rough against Maui. But yeah, I mean, mad props for playing something that nobody else was taking to that tournament. And he did pretty well, I think. I don't know where Zan finished, but I think I was his only 0-2 on the day, and he was like somewhere in the top 50.
Yeah, he was somewhere in the 30s.
Can we talk about Speci for a second? Because you were talking about how you were never out of the tournament RMB, and I was watching the leaderboard because I was, in contention basically the whole tournament. And so I would like look at the top 50 for the people's names I recognized and, keep tabs on how people were doing. And I just never saw Speci's name at all. Like round after round after round, like he just wasn't there. And then all of a sudden in like round 8, suddenly he's like, in the top 20 or whatever. And then the next round he's in the top 16, making the top cut. Apparently, I don't know exactly how he ended his tournament, but I think he started like...
Oh, I know.
Like
he
04.
started 0-1-4 in the first 5 rounds and rattled off 4 2-0s in a row.
Yeah, something like some crazy run like that, which is, that's cool. I think that's a cool part of the format, and no other format could you start a day that bad and then make top cut. And he made it cleanly. Like, he ended up, I don't know where he was, like 8th or something after Swiss, I swear. So, yeah, very impressive, very cool. I've never seen anything quite like that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, he deserved it, man. Like the dude put his heart and soul
He's
into
grinding.
And yeah, he came up with his own little sauce.
He did, yeah.
Like he was working on his own little brew, and man, it
went through a lot of iterations.
Yeah.
He inspired other people to play it. Like I think Brindleblore, who also top 16, played it because he saw Speci doing well with it. So
It was like 5 cards different. Like
yeah,
it wasn't even a bunch of cards different.
To be fair,
To be fair,
Brindlebore has played Green Steel like in
Yes.
multiple iterations for a few sets. So like
Yeah.
my guess is he's just like, I'm used to doing this. But like yeah, so Brindlebore's been playing Green Steel for a hot minute. And so he kind of knows what he's doing. He stomped me down in the last round.
Yeah, Brindle's good. I ran into him on ladder today, and he was playing mono steel. Mono steel, and he's like, yeah,
Wow.
man. Like I ended up messaging him. Like I ended up beating him. I was on green steel, like our version of green steel, and like I ended up messaging him after. I was like, I see you, baby. I see you on that mono steel. He's like, yeah, man. Like I've been trying to make a mono deck work, and like I think like the steel deck's probably like pretty close, and like it kind of got me wondering. So I was like, you've inspired me. Like after that conversation, I went and I got in the lab and built me a little mono purple deck, and then got demolished by red purple. And I was like, yeah, I'm just kidding. I can't do this.
The monocolored decks, like, when are those going to be big? I know I played purple splashing yellow just for Lantern. It was just
As a joke, as a fun challenge, I think people can do it. You know, if you're going to League, you can play a monocolor deck, but until they make cards that specifically reward you for doing so, there's just no universe in which it makes sense. I mean, it's free. You don't have colored mana or anything, so yeah.
yeah, you need something like when there's X other purple characters in play or something like that to reward you
Yeah.
for those deck building.
Yeah, for sure. I think that maybe is some design space they'll explore at some point, but as of right now,
Devotion when?
Yeah, Devotion when. Memes only right now.
Devotion
Memes
when?
only. All right, well, do we want to talk about set championships? I know we've got set championships coming up in, I suppose, 2-3 weeks here. Are you guys planning to play in anything?
No idea what I'm going to use.
Have you signed up?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure how difficult it would be to get in, but it looks like a lot of the stores around me are actually not going to be too tough to get into. Helps that we have a 5K going on one of those weekends and a 1K going on the weekend after that locally, which spreads out some of the competition for slots in those tournaments.
I feel like I caught the short end of the stick because we have a plethora of shops in the area, and it's like every single one of them just decided to do it on the exact same day. Because yeah, so like we have the PPG 5K on one of the weekends of set championships. So none of the shops scheduled any for that day because there's a 5K, which okay, fair. None of them are scheduling it on that Sunday because there's apparently some huge like One Piece tournament that's going on that day. And then the following weekend, that Saturday is when every shop has scheduled it for. And that Sunday is a big Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. So like, I don't know why the One Piece and the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament matters for Lorcana, but like shops just aren't scheduling them on those days. So like there's like 4 or 5 different shops that are all going to have their set championship on the 27th. And like I'm basically going to get one shot at it. The shop that I'm going to, like it's going to be Brennan DeCandio and I at that shop. So like
good luck.
So enjoy.
I guess I'm not. Yeah, like I guess like I'm just like fighting for second place at this point.
So what do we even get? It's just the foil card, right? There's not like an invitation.
No, there's more. There's more. So top 4 gets one of the Stitch promos. All top 4 gets one of the Stitch promos.
Yeah.
First place gets the Stitch mat and it says champion on it. Runner up gets a Stitch mat with no champion on it.
So just be on the opposite side.
I want one of the mats.
The top 8. Just got to be on the opposite side.
I want one of the mats that doesn't say champion. I was making jokes.
I don't even want the champion mat.
Why is the second place playmat better than the first place playmat?
Yeah.
I can just throw it in my stack of game day playmats I don't care about, you know? Which
yeah,
exactly. It's funny because that's what I thought this tournament was going to be. When I heard about it, I was like, oh, this is Lorcana game day. But when I think of there's a certain connotation about Magic game day, which is that it's not a very competitive event and no one really cares about it. So that's kind of how I felt about these, but then everyone else got really hyped and I was like, I guess maybe the Stitch will be worth something, but in the back of my head, I can't like unassociate Magic game day with this event. So Yeah.
I always showed up to game days with meme decks. Like I played like Gates one time. I played like Rogues another time. Like I showed up with just dumb decks. Like I'm not showing up with like Rakdos mid range or like Mono Green or like Tron or something like that. Like I'm not showing up with those decks those days. Like I'm showing up with a meme for sure.
Our scene's hardcore for Magic, so like
Even for game day?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's standard, but like, so they only really got like 6 standard players normally, and then before, when standard was popular, it just got all of the like the hardcore players. They all just maybe my scene was a lot more competitive, but like if you
Do you know
didn't
where I am?
have a real deck, like
That's
well,
the thing
yeah,
is most of the competitive players in our area just wouldn't show up to game days. They didn't care about game days.
Exactly.
Like that was why like so like the Central Florida area has such a high density of a wealth of talent for TCG players. Like we've got Pokemon Nationals champions, like Pokemon Worlds contenders, Yu-Gi-Oh nationalists, like world champions for One Piece, like tons of people from the Pro Tour and Magic. Like there's so many good TCG players between like Tampa, Orlando, Kissimmee. Like it's disgusting. It's absolutely
and
disgusting.
your casual players still play just like random jank, because I definitely
No.
felt like, well, yeah, that's the thing. So I don't go to game day to
I
lose to
played
some kid
jank.
playing like
I played
Wandering
jank at game
Emperor while
days.
I'm playing
No, I wasn't
power
talking about the
level
other
on cards.
players. I'm talking about me. Like I didn't care about game days. I've got a stack of playmats in the closet that like I don't care about.
Yeah.
Like that was the
I
thing.
mean,
Like
is that
I would
all?
show up to
Is that all yours gave out? Was the playmat?
Well, and promos. They used to have top 8
and
promos and
promos. Yeah.
participation promos, I believe,
Oh,
for game
we
day.
get like a box for first place.
I mean, it was a tournament, so they had other prize support as well, but it wasn't like, cash.
I guess I'm just hardcore. Like it's $100
Wow.
prize. I'll play a real deck.
Well,
Like
for me, when your
I don't
prize
get
is a
enough
playmat,
competition.
like
Got to play more.
if you play competitive TCGs for long enough, you will acquire a stack of playmats. We all have a stack of playmats.
Yeah,
I
they
use
don't
them as
matter.
mouse
They don't
mats.
matter.
I take them to work as mouse mats. I run through one every year. Yep, I've got one right here in front of me.
Right here.
There's literally a stack of like 30 of them that I've all gotten either from winning or like top 8 events or whatever. And it's just, you can never have enough of, well, you can't have enough of them. You have enough of them almost immediately.
Too many.
And they just never stop coming. So I don't know. To me, a mat, it's cool. And I would use a Lorcana mat. I don't have a Lorcana specific mat at this point, but I don't necessarily need one that says champion.
I gave mine to my wife. She took it into her state job and uses it as a mouse pad there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they are. They're mouse pads.
I probably have like a storage box with like 30 of them in it.
I have too many. I think like, if I counted all of the playmats that I have, I probably have 80 or 90 playmats. It's just like an
I don't have that
outrageous
many,
number.
it's too many. I mean, it's more than 10 for sure. And I've lost some over the years, right? Because I used to keep all my like top 16 playmats and stuff, but
I started selling
money.
a bunch of them too. Like I started selling a ton of them off to shops because like they'd be like, oh, like if you have like any of these playmats, we'll give you like 40, 50 bucks for them. I was like, yeah, I got a bunch of those. Take them. Because like I can never
secondary market. They're 2K. It's like yeah.
Well, I don't have any like the spell grounds. Like,
oh yeah,
is that what they're called? Like, I don't have any of those
Yu-Gi-Oh
like
player
crazy
playmats, the Spellgrounds playmats. Yeah,
yeah. And
Well,
so
they were
like, here's the
Magic
thing.
ones, I think initially
they were initially yes,
like
you're
in
right.
in like '93. But like anytime I see like an opponent sit down across from me and they got a Spellgrounds playmat, I'm like, I'm not gonna like this person.
Wow.
Like,
I'm not gonna like them. They're not
Jeez.
gonna be good
That's
at this
not what
game.
I thought that was gonna be.
No. Not that they're not gonna be good at the game. Not that they're not gonna be good at the game, but they're gonna be like, actually, you can't do that. Judge, my opponent looked at their hand for too long.
I would just like to say that the podcast does not endorse stereotyping. That's just R&B's personal
No.
opinion. He does not speak for the rest of us. I'm sure most of you are great people.
It's mostly jealousy that I don't own one, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, I've always wanted one of those stupid playmats, but they're so absurdly expensive They're like, I can't warrant spending like $300 on one of these playmats. Like I can't bring myself to do it.
Well, aren't they all like 2-player playmats?
Yeah, but
weird.
you
Yeah,
fold
most
it
people
over.
fold
You don't
them.
ever.
I can't.
Yeah,
I can't. I don't know.
You don't
I
share
want one
it.
so bad. I want one so bad.
The appeal is lost on me. I'll just leave it at that.
You like purposely fold it so then they look at it and they want you to share, but you're not going to share the playmat. And
Fair. Well, I think that's probably enough about playmats. We don't need to spend half a podcast talking about playmats, but we've got in a but so we've got in about a month and a half we've got the big Atlanta event, which 2 of us have tickets for. Sorry, R&B. But you might get one.
Leave them alone. You're being so mean to R&B here.
Well, this is just coincidence.
R&B, you don't deserve an Atlanta ticket because you play bad dumb decks.
It's true. That's
and you're bald.
That's actually what I said the other day.
Verbatim.
He made fun of me because I didn't have hair on my head.
Direct quote. I would never make fun of someone for not having hair, given that I will soon have no hair left. Yeah, so I think we're going to Atlanta, and hopefully R&B, when they add more tickets, that you're also able to get a ticket, because I know the whole team would love to go. But as far as that, what are plans? I mean, I think as a team we're going to be testing, trying to find the best deck for sure. It would be really, really awesome to put someone from Team Labyrinth into. Well, I guess I don't know how it works. At least day 2 would be super cool. Of 500.
Top 64, I think, is what they said.
I think so.
What they said top 64 will make day 2. However, it could be more. So I think what they're going to end up doing is anyone that's tied for that top 64 slot. So like, let's say it ends up being like 71 people, they'll cut to top 71. Like anyone that has the same record as the person in 64th with like the same breakers, like will also get into day 2. That's the way that they didn't explicitly state it, but that's the way that they made it seem.
Maybe I don't understand the format. I was under the impression that day 2 was going to be all single elimination, at which point, because that's kind of how they set up the promos, right? It's like 64, 32, 16, 8, so on.
They said so they were very specific and literal with their words. They said at least 64. We're going to make day 2 and get the promo. However, it could be more.
Okay. Well, I'm curious.
They doubled. If they double the cap, they might just double the numbers of each of the promos and whatnot.
I hope they do. If they double the cap, I hope they increase prize support. It would be pretty sad. I mean, obviously, I would love more people to go to the event, but if they plan prize support for a certain number of people and then they double or triple that number of people, I would hope that they would double or triple the prize support. It would be kind of unfortunate to all be fighting for the same number of promos with more people than were intended to be there. But either way, I'm excited. I mean, it's the first big official event, qualifies for presumably nationals, which then would lead to worlds, I would think, which is super exciting. Obviously, it's a goal of all of ours to get onto those big top level premier events. So I'm excited. I can't wait to start testing. I have no idea what I'll play. I'm a little disappointed that we won't get to play with the new set at the first one, but
yeah. Feel like that's definitely a painful thing to people who like to brew, but I've had better success playing established decks than just brewing new fun things, although I like to brew new fun things.
That's my bread and butter, man. I honestly, like, the thing that keeps me in games is like, if I can develop and design a deck that influences the metagame, like, my job is done. Like that, I love innovation. I love deck design. Like I'm one of those people that will go, when a new set comes out, I will play through every single card in the set to determine viability. And like even weeks and weeks after metas have been defined, I'm still testing new and different cards, trying to see like, is there something that I missed?
Yeah, like airfoil.
Like I said, I don't build new decks. Like I I did in set 1 for sure though. Steel Wheel's pretty solid. Played that for a minute, but after set 2 came out, trying to brew new decks, and then just having red purple still beat everything was.
Let me introduce you to my friend Lucky Dime.
Lucky Dime's a good card, I can tell you.
Red purple got you down. Let me introduce you to this wonderful card. probably the only playable card from blue in set 3.
There's a few of them, but yeah,
There's like exactly 3.
Yeah,
I do
pretty
believe
close.
I do believe you said the number 3 card that we agreed is the third best card. You called unplayable trash.
Yes.
I played 4
did.
copies. So we're talking about Grammatala, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the 4
I
drop.
did play 4 copies in my top 16 deck over the weekend, so
You just build different, okay?
Watch
Like
words.
that card's buns, man.
It-
like it's gonna be the most cuttable card like as more sets come out. That's the thing. Like if the
is.
strategy continues, like that card is like 1 foot out the door already.
It's a Maleficent that costs 1 more, but you get a look at 1 more card. It's a little like it's bigger too, so it trades with stakes.
Didn't red purple start cutting Maleficents too? Like
Well, let's not talk about that part.
It's definitely one of the weakest cards in the deck. I mean, having played it
Exactly.
over the weekend. Like, if you look at the list, you're like, what is this card even doing here? But the reality is basically that the
it replaces itself.
the red blue decks are so slow, and there's basically no good options for early game. Like, once you've put the 4 Queen of Hearts in your deck, what else are you gonna do? I mean, there's no good 1-drops in either of those colors. There's no other good 2-drops. Like, you could play Gaston, so you could shift your Gaston, but that sounds super mediocre. And so you really,
Like
really
the Rocket
need
Stitch.
you need something on turn 4 after your 1 jump ahead turn. And Flaversham, unfortunately, does not control the board very well, or at all, frankly. And oftentimes, like, you just obviously, if you have the Popsicle in play, you would love Flaversham to be your 4-drop every time, but you don't always have that. And so you need to play some other 4-drop in the deck. And if you look at your options, you could play Sisu. The deck has a lot of uninkables already. Like, I played 18. Most people, I was on Twitter, like, and I didn't necessarily answer all these questions, but a lot of people are like, don't you want to play more of the 6-drops? And it's like, yeah, I'm already playing 8 uninkable 6-drops. How many can you put in your deck before it just becomes a huge liability? Yeah, 4 Gaston, 2 of each Madame Medusa and Lady Tremaine. And so
I was trying to figure out the split.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there are lots of ways you can go with the split. I wanted the consistency. I found that in the mirror, Gaston helps me find Popsicle Flaversham, which is the most important thing. So I wanted 4 of those, but I mean, you could do whatever split you felt was good. But basically, you need a 4-drop, and if you look at your options in blue and red, there just aren't a lot of good 4-drops, and unfortunately, like, Sisu isn't another uninkable, and is just not...
Doesn't really kill anything either. It just draws cards very slowly.
Yeah, so
if
basically...
it figured when it came into play, it'd be a different story.
Grammatol is the card that exists in that slot, and so you play it, and it doesn't feel good, but it's kind of just what you have to do. It's good against discard, though. I like it against green steel, which is nice. It's just super important to have your cards replace themselves. And Flaversham obviously is better, but like you just can't. Flaversham isn't. It'll come online some point in the game. Like you go through so many cards, but part of going through so many cards is like you have to play cards like Grammatala to dig through your deck to find it.
All right. So we've decided what the best worst blue card is in the current meta. What is the best worst green card? I.e. the green card that's seen play, but you don't want to be playing it, but you have to.
3-drop Ursula.
That's a great card that I want to play.
That's amazing. I want to play it.
It's like fine. So like the card's obviously very, very powerful, but it is incredible. Like even obviously, like everyone thought the card was going to be absolutely absurd the first week of the game. So like you had kits and Medusas flying around all over the place. So like your Ursulas just were not staying alive. And then like red purple adapts and starts putting Pinocchios in the deck. So like that's the prime target when you're against green decks. Like if the Ursula lives, you oftentimes just lose the game because they get to, either kill 2 things with a damage and draw 2 cards. It's good. It's good. Don't get me wrong, but like I think it also like forces you to play songs that otherwise would be bad. And I'm speaking specifically like on my own experience cuz like so this was the first event that I played not blue steel in a competitive event ever in the history of Lorcana. Like I have always sleeved up blue steel for every competitive event that I've ever played in. So like I just didn't want to play a ton of mirror matches all day. Like the mirror match is really toxic. Comes down to whoever gets 2 Cogsworths first, and like the gameplay is just not fun. Like I just don't like it. It's not good. So like I played green steel, and like I'm playing sudden chills. You know how bad sudden chill is? Sudden Chill is exactly good when you sing it with Ursula. So like if your Ursula does not live, like that card is just like it's buns. Like
You can ink
it
it,
is
though.
so bad. Yeah, it's ink, but like I would just like rather it be any other card that's like actually does something. It's only good when Ursula sings it.
It's okay if you have a Prince John in play.
True.
It's okay. It's okay if you have an airfoil in play sometimes.
Yeah. If you're one of those people who has airfoil in play, then it's okay.
Gonna be
I think
making that
the worst
airfoil any day now.
I think the worst card that like felt like a necessity for me to run, like obviously Ursula is very, very good. It's not Ursula, it's Morph.
Yeah.
I hate Morph. Cannot stand the card. But like sometimes against red purple, like they just don't have it. You just like drop a Morph on 2 and you shift a beast on 3. Like that thing's gonna stick around for a little while and draw you some cards, and usually it's enough that like they can't come back from.
Dude, my opponents, they don't teeth the Morph, they just teeth the beast. And then it's like and I can't quest with it to gain lore, so they attack it with snakes. So I've actually like 2-for-1'd myself on their spell because it just doesn't do enough. And like you must not have ran into that, but I've had a few red purple people do that, and it's just like wrecked me.
There's been a lot less
Because
teeth
they're like,
running around.
oh,
Yeah.
trick you into putting your Beastie Boy down early.
Even like Dakota was running Toothless Jim, which by the way was a phenomenal name for a deck.
That is hilarious. I laughed. I saw a lot of like the deck names because they just posted like the actual deck
Most of
names,
them are all.
and everyone else is like clever deck names. And I was just like blue red. This is so sad.
You're so basic bannable here.
Brennan's got his Order 66 and Toothless Jim, and I'm just blue red. Those are the two colors.
Brindles was like, I play whatever space he told me to play.
So like, let's say you guys are packing your bags right now, getting ready to leave for Atlanta tomorrow to start day 1 of the challenge. What are you bringing? Given the current context of the meta right now, what are you playing tomorrow?
Amber Steel, and just hope I don't make mistakes like I did in this last weekend, and hope to play well.
Flutes or lanterns?
Reps with it.
Or Pride
I
Lands.
feel insulted that you have to ask me. Well, whoa. I think there's.
I know the answer.
If I play Pride Lands, then I would play flutes. But it's like
I know the answer, Luke, but maybe our audience
Pride
doesn't.
Lands flute. My audience would know. My new audience. Well, I am a lantern believer. I'm not a truther because that makes it sound weird, but I am a believer in the lantern.
I'm in the same boat as you. I don't believe in flutes. I think flutes suck.
I hate
that card.
And I've railed against flute many times on my YouTube channel over the last few months. But I actually like flutes now. I like flutes against Ruby Amethyst, and I like him against blue red. So against
I like
Ruby
him
Sapphire.
there.
So I think that
like
it's decently well positioned. I kind of like him against blue steel too. I think it's like kind of horse apiece against blue steel. You just have to be the.
I get more worried playing against lantern build. Like as the blue steel player, I'm more afraid of the lantern builds than I am of the flute builds, and specifically because like they can go to parity with me on ink because of the ramp, and they just play bigger, scarier threats. Like flutes doesn't play big, scary threats. Like they may have like 1 or 2 shifts that they play throughout the course of the turn or throughout the course of the game, and then the rest of the time they're just playing a bunch of goons, which just gets swept up by a grab your swords anyways. So like, cool, like play your little dudes. Like I'm gonna play 2 Cogsworth and just start slamming Gastons. Like your flutes are gonna quest for 1, my bodies are questing for 3. Let's see who wins this race.
To be fair, less and less people are playing swords.
Not me.
Well,
I've been
smaller
increasing
quantities.
swords counts.
I know a lot of people are
Because you
3 or 2
decreased
even.
them. Like
I did. I
one.
decreased it to 3, and then I tried to decrease it to 2, and I played it for like a few games. Was like, nah. Went back up to 3. Now I'm back on 4.
Ooh,
I'm on 4 now.
The meta be shifting.
There's
That's
just so
always
many
shifting.
merfolks and flins. Like, you just need them.
Especially if green steel is going to come back. I think if you're playing blue steel, and I think given that green steel had its best weekend ever, I think it's proven its spot in the metagame. It's going to be around for a while, so I agree. Swords probably pretty important. If I had to play Atlanta tomorrow, I would probably play Ruby Sapphire again, just because I haven't really played much since the weekend. I think if I had a week to prepare, I want to play Blue Steel. The only reason I didn't play Blue Steel over the last weekend was that A, I didn't want to play the mirror, and B, it had been a week since I'd played the deck, and I didn't. Blue Steel's hard. I don't know if it's the hardest deck, but it's at the very least in contention for the hardest deck in my opinion in Lorcana right now, and I didn't want to go in raw, I guess, on Blue Steel. I feel like I would have probably had a rough time.
Step into my lab, Bannable. We're gonna have a discussion after this.
Yeah, yeah.
You sync cards with Quill, have it all, draw all the cards, kill all the characters.
It's not that different from Ruby Sapphire, but it's I do think it's harder. I think Ruby Sapphire goes so far over the top that you don't have to care quite as much about the intermediate plays. Like, how are you going to remove everything with Blue Steel is a question, right? Are you going to try and play two songs? You're going to play Swords, Tinkerbell. You're going to try and hit them off wheel. In Ruby Sapphire, it's just like, play Be Prepared. Everything dies. You don't have to worry about it. There's no, do I use my Zeus here? Do I use, whatever? Like, it's just, it's a little easier in that way, in my opinion. So I felt more comfortable playing that because that's what I've been working with. And Tamatoa Dime is crazy. I think if I play Blue Steel, I'd try to fit at least one Tamatoa in my list because...
Well, I have one in.
Yeah.
I have one Tam. So my biggest thing was I wanted third Dime, but like Dime's an uninkable 7 cost. Like you just can't play 3 Dimes. So like I was drawing Dimes early. So like I got to the point where I was like, okay, like what if I just wheel away this Dime into the bin and then like have a Tamatoa in the deck that like I can rebuy it later in the game when I can just like win off of it. So I'm running 2 Dimes, 1 Crab.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd be trying to put probably honestly 2 Tamatoa in, but it's hard. There's like one of the advantages of playing something like Blue Steel over Ruby Sapphire is better early game, but you get Captain Hook, you get Mr. Smee, but that does like in Ruby Sapphire, you can play all the late game you want because there's literally no early game cards you could play if you wanted to. Once you start putting actual early game in your deck, it's like, where did all my slots for Tamatoas go?
Well, the issue with Ruby Sapphire is like you could draw none of your ramp or like none of your draw. Like you could you can get stuck with one or the other. Like either you don't have the Haram and you don't get to get going and you like inked your whole hand and like maybe you played one big threat and they deal with that one threat and now you're just top decking for the rest of the game. Like Blue Steel has the early game so that if you miss your ramp, you're not just doing nothing, which is one of the things that I really, really like about Blue Steel. And the other thing is that I feel like I have cards in my deck that can answer anything that my opponent is going to throw at me. I have to find it, yes, but like we're also a wheel deck, so like you have time. That's the other thing too. Like a lot of the times I think that players look at something on their opponent's side of the board and they're like, oh my god, that's scary, I got to deal with it right now. Like lore totals are a resource. Like you can forego and give up an advantage in the early game and allow your opponent to get to, a higher lore total than what you're at, as long as you have some way that you're coming back from that in the later stage of the game. Like I've been able to just like hard commit to my Inkwell. My opponent's been at 16 and I've won off of like an Audrey untapping a Lucky Dime twice on a Bell. And just been like, oh, sorry, I was at 5. I'm at 15 now. No big deal, guys.
Yeah, Lucky Dime.
I don't know about Audrey.
I don't know about Audrey either, but Lucky Dime.
I was trying, man. I was trying to make Audrey work, like going a little bit more all in on the combo. It is still just a warded singer, so it's like Cogsworth's number 5 and 6, which was kind of neat. And then like had this additional upside that like you could just like win right then and there.
Everyone always forgets about the ward. They just remember she untaps things. I don't know. I like playing 3 Lucky Dimes, maybe not in Blue Steel, but I was fine with it in Red Blue. I like the ability to be able to pitch it to Fishbone Quill, and we're also running Heart of Tafiti as well as 1 jump. So like playing that extra 1 lowers the chances of just like accidentally inking it, or the ability to ink it if I just have to get rid of it from my hand.
Yeah, it's just hard to fit. Like it being uninkable makes it hard to slot into the list. I do love Lucky Dime, but 3 does seem a little extreme. And I didn't play any Heart of Tafiti. I wanted to play Heart of Tafiti. I was planning to play exactly 1 copy, but I had
You forgot.
I registered my deck and then I couldn't change it, and so it's like, oh, I guess I'm not playing any, which is fine. I didn't really regret it. It's nice in the mirror, but it's not. I feel like in most matchups that aren't Sapphire mirror matches. Yeah, it's good against discard. It's good against blue steel. It's good against ruby sapphire mirrors, but it's like pretty bad everywhere else.
It's okay against red purple. It's just drawing an extra card, right? It's
if they give you time. I found that oftentimes you don't have time, especially if they're playing like if they're back on the Minnie Mouse plan. But how about you, RMB? I know you don't currently have a ticket to Atlanta, but if you were going, what would you play?
I should have just played blue steel this past weekend, if I'm being honest. So like, if Atlanta were tomorrow, I'd play blue steel. If Atlanta was next weekend, I'd play blue steel. If Atlanta was in 3 weeks, I'd play blue steel. Simple as that. Like, I'm probably just playing blue steel. I just think the deck's so good, man. I think the deck's just so good. It really is. Like, it's definitely a very difficult deck to play. The issue, you know really why I didn't want to play it this weekend? Because every event that I have played this deck in, I have left the event with a migraine. I have to use 150% of my brain in every single game because, like, red cards are just better. Like, Be Prepared is just really good.
I don't know that they're better, but they're easier, that's for sure.
Yeah, like, like I have to use 150% of my brain to string together wins where I shouldn't get wins. And, like, I leave events with just this massive migraine. And, like, the next day I feel, like, almost hungover. Like, I just feel, like, groggy and exhausted and tired. And I wanted an easier weekend. So, like, I played some Bucky John.
I still think it was a good choice.
I do too. I think that the build was a little bit incorrect. And I think that, like, I even think that the more aggressive shell with Curse, Merfolk, and Flynn is also incorrect. I think a hybrid, like a myriad of the two, is probably correct because you don't want to be drawing, Curse, Merfolks in the late game. But, like, I do think that the pressure that Flynn puts on is very, very good and also has synergy with the John. Like, I think that I was lacking a little bit of the aggression and going more for, like, the later game plan, whereas, like, some of the aggressive strategies were focusing too much on the early game with Curse, Merfolk, Captain Hook, Smee, Flynn. Like, that's just too much early game. Like, you need some oomph on the back end. So, like, I think somewhere in the middle of those two strategies is probably correct.
I'm a zero skater believer. Like, I like the set 2 discard a lot. Give me some Buckies, some Jafars. That's it.
How about 6-drop Robin Hood RMB? I know that Svesi has been on and off the 6-drop Robin Hoods, and now I don't know if it's the deck for it, but that is a card I feel has been criminally underplayed. I mean, it does quest for 1 million.
I've played the card. I have in fact played the card. I played it in green Fossa. I've played it in green Steel. It's not bad. The issue that I have with it is that it's not better than Beast Relentless. Beast Relentless has significantly higher upside to gain you more lore in any given turn and is a great combo finisher against the slower decks of the format like red purple and red blue. Like, I've had turns where, if you don't have an answer for it and you can't use a Medusa to answer it, that if you have anything on your side of the board, like, I'm gaining between 6 to 8 on that turn, which is usually enough to close the game out.
And then along came Zeus.
It was a good card. But Robin Hood also dies too. Along came Zeus too. It's a 4/5.
Well, that's what I was meaning. And then along came Zeus. I'm not a fan of Robin Hood.
No, the Robin Hood's good. If that card ever gets to quest twice,
well,
forget it.
Well, yeah, twice, obviously.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Even
I was playing it in green Fossa, and the card was cracked. The card was cracked. Like, if I went turn 1 Pluto, turn 2 Doc, game was over. Game was over.
If I have the nut draw, I win most of the time. Yeah. You heard it here first, folks.
They have no interaction at all.
Yeah, of course. Like, they cannot.
Mickey Trumpeter is also busted. You get to put, like, 9-drops into play. Like, why is not every steel deck playing Trumpeter in them? Like, We have enough brain power. We should be able to figure out why Trumpeter doesn't see play.
Even like a turn 4, turn 5 Robin Hood was oftentimes just like good enough to like steal a game.
I think early the stats on Robin Hood would be pretty good. Like it's hard to remove if you're playing it ahead of curve. So
Right.
I think
Good
it's
against everything but steel, and okay-ish against red.
yeah. All right.
Maui.
Well, anything else we want to go over, or we want to wrap it up there for the first podcast?
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. All right. Well, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and hopefully we do this again. TBD at this point, but yeah, it was fun.